Do you feel smartphone prices have shot up recently? Are you unable to get the one you'd like to buy? Did you book a car recently and the dealer is now telling you that the delivery is delayed? Are you having a hard time buying a new gaming console, an Xbox or a PlayStation? Tonight we'll tell you why all of this is happening, and I know we are talking about very different industries: cars, smartphones, gaming consoles. But believe me when I tell you, all these shortages are connected. There's a common factor in all these products: a tiny computer chip. And that's what the world is running out of. There is an unprecedented shortage of chips or semiconductors. And industries across the board are suffering because of this. From consumer electronics to car manufacturers, the shortage is either driving up costs or forcing companies to cut back on production. This shortage affects you more than you realize. That's because these chips drive our world now. And as we depend more on gadgets and move online in bigger numbers across the world, we'll need more chips. Right now, the demand is far more than the supply, and the production is limited to a few big players. Chip makers are spending heavily on expanding their output, and India has a pitch for them. The proposal is very simple. You make in India and you get more than $1 billion in cash incentives. Reports say India wants to offer more than $1 billion as incentives to companies who make their chips in India. The government is apparently also ready to provide assurances to manufacturers that buyers will line up. The report says the government will buy the chips and also set up a mandate for private players. Companies in India could be asked to buy made in India chips. Suppliers who make chips in India will be tagged as trusted sources. And these chips will be eligible for use in a range of products, from CCTV cameras to 5G equipment and everything in between. This may be a compelling offer, but it's not a unique one. Governments around the world, in fact, are subsidizing chip makers. They're all attracting them or trying to. India has now jumped into the fray. But attracting these businesses will not be easy for India. The competition is intense. US President Joe Biden, for instance, wants $50 billion, $50 billion, to boost the US chip industry. The proposal is part of his $2 trillion infrastructure plan. He plans to hike taxes on the foreign earnings of American companies to raise these funds. Joe Biden wants to spend that $50 billion budget in two areas. One is the production incentive, and second, research and design. The American president wants to create a national semiconductor technology center for research into semiconductors. Biden has been talking about dealing with the current shortage since the early days of his administration. In February, he met with a bipartisan group of lawmakers to discuss supply chain issues. Then he signed an executive order. It was for America's federal government to conduct a comprehensive review of supply chains for computer chips and large batteries, the ones that are used in electric vehicles. Biden called these chips a quote-unquote 21st century horseshoe nail.
We've seen how a shortage of computer chips, like the one I have here, you can hardly see it, I imagine. It's called a semiconductor. It's caused delays in production of automobiles that has resulted in reduced hours for American workers. A 21st century horseshoe nail.
So America plans to become an aggressive player in the world of chips. It is also discussing an agreement with Japan for critical chip components. India is in the semiconductor race as well now. So is China. In 2020, more than $35 billion flowed into China's semiconductors firms. That's an increase of 407% from 2019. You heard that right. A 407% jump in 1 year. What explains the spike? Frankly, China had no option. Until recently, China depended on the US for semiconductors. Every year, it imported more than $300 billion worth of chips from American suppliers. It was good business for US companies as well. They received 25% of their sales orders from Chinese markets. But in December last year, the Trump administration banned technology exports to Chinese companies. Joe Biden is yet to lift those restrictions. So Beijing has now embarked on a mission of self-sufficiency in semiconductors. Where does that leave us? We have a rising demand for chips, we have a shortage of supply, and a race between two big players. How should India see this? As an opportunity India should open its doors, project itself as a worthy candidate for semiconductor companies, and play up its credentials. Remember, India is also the world's second biggest mobile manufacturer after China. It has the wherewithal to become the global hub for chips. And once that happens, India could well become a one-stop shop for tech manufacturing. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.